Prospect House Media.
And now, prepare yourself for the only weekly podcast you won't want to miss. Welcome to the Ameritocracy Show with Troy Edgar, live from our studios in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C.
Hey everybody, I am Troy Edgar and welcome to the Ameritocracy Show. Thank you for tuning in and checking it out. It is greatly appreciated. This podcast examines the conditions for personal and economic growth and opportunity across America. This week, I had the opportunity to attend the largest music trade show in the world, the National Association of Music Merchants, or the NAMM Show in Anaheim, California. As a guitar enthusiast, I was excited to interview J.D. Lewis, founder and lead designer of Warrior Guitars, and his sons, Dran and Gabe. The Lewis family has been showcasing their craft at the NAMM Show for over 30 extraordinary years. J.D. talks about his history of his company, the importance of staying true to oneself, and how the value of family is at the forefront of Warrior Guitar designs. He also shares his views on the music industry and the importance of quality and sincerity. Dran and Gabe discuss their involvement in the company's growth and reputation, their intention of staying true to their niche market and constantly evolving to meet customer demands has me excited for the next 30 years of Warrior Guitars. I hope you enjoy. JD, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing amazing.
Oh my gosh, well, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for taking time today.
Oh, you know what? You got to keep it real. That's how we are where we are today.
Yeah, so we're here at the NAMM Show here in Anaheim, and a big anniversary for Warrior Guitars, 30th anniversary, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit of maybe a setup of your whole process that you're going on and doing here for this 30th anniversary. But before that, I'd like to start a little bit with the history of how we started up Warrior Guitar.
Okay. In '76, my dad and I started a music store called the Soundpost, and I was going around to clubs with strings and stuff and selling to people playing. And as we progressed in the music store, I started doing repair work for Alabama Band. I'd work on their guitars and stuff through another guy. Never was out front or anything like that, kind of behind the scenes. And so I had such a love to work on instruments, and I was always fascinated with sound.
Yeah, you and I met about 6 years ago, 2018, at the previous NAMM, and this was pre-pandemic. Being here today at the show, it feels like it's getting back to normal. What's your view of kind of how the show is?
It's been absolutely amazing. From the journey of starting in 1993 to now, the journey of not just hobby shop kind of build. We always had the heart, but we really didn't go to school for it, or wasn't really trained in this level. And the journey began with Warrior in 93. Okay. That's where it started. Now, as we progress from 93 to now, it's amazing how the favor that we've had, the skill continues to grow. The heart for playing and people continues to grow. And it seems like the more that we, walk in excellence, and the more that we grow in our craft and growing, having the heart for, like you, if we're building an instrument for you, we want to give you something that's you, not necessarily us, So that's a little piece of how we've walked up to current, the NAMM Show now. So it's exciting. It's exciting to meet you and to sit down with you and talk with you. I'm unscripted, as you can tell.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. When we got together, I think the thing that I noticed at that time, there was a lot of custom guitar makers that were represented at the NAMM, and even with Dran, I was talking to him earlier, your son. We'll talk about him in a few minutes, and your other son, Gabe. But I remember I made the comment, hey, there is a tremendous amount of custom guitar companies here, and everybody that follows my show knows I'm a guitar aficionado, but I'm a corporate guy that does restructuring and consulting. So I'm more of an appreciation, not the fine details. But what I notice is with all of those different guitar companies, I said, even this show, I said, man, there just seems like more custom guitar shop stuff. And he says, Troy, this show, we've been here for 30 years. And he says, and in 30 years, there's always 100 plus guitar companies that come as custom, but every year it's a new 100. He says, it takes something to be able to sustain yourself in this type of market. And so what I was kind of curious about, like your journey here at Warrior, when you set off to do this and you started kind of going through, your guitars have a very unique look, and they're all, custom. Talk about that a little bit and kind of what gave you the idea of getting a company like this and how you were going to focus on branding it.
Well, marketing and brand awareness is really not my thing, okay? The boys are much better at it than me. But I just love people. I love music. The designs are all birthed through kind of inside out. I really wasn't schooled in this craft. And it's like, I never like to go get a Les Paul or a Strat or a PRS or, any brands and just say, oh, let's make something close to this and let's alternate it. So I've always desired is that just comes from the inside. And so every design, my son, Dran, inspired the Dran Michael. Watching him how he walks, how he talks, his personality. Gabriel, same way, totally different. He's just got that royal blood to him. And then Isabella's she's in a league of her own. So when the Isabella guitar, Isabella bass came, and phase 2 was the Bella bass, all inspired by the kids. And then the latest, greatest is Isla J, which is my granddaughter.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, JD. Let me ask you a question, though. When you're going out there after the market, like this show, pretty big deal, largest for kind of the industry insiders. I've seen your booths in Dallas at the International Guitar Show. Any other big shows that you guys are out at? Are those your two big ones that you guys
That's two big ones, basically. Well, we used to do Nashville, and we used to do the Summer NAMM Show. And then we love to do the vintage guitar shows because we really love vintage instruments. So many times people ask me, why do you do vintage guitar shows? I said, because I love the way older instruments sound.
Right.
They really had another gear to woodworking and to the quality of a piece of wood, whether it being furniture grade or whether it being instrument grade.
So I had the blessing to be able to get a guitar from you, the Serenity.
Correct.
And one of the things that I picked that guitar for is when I was in the Navy, about 1985, I lived in San Diego. And being a guitar guy, my dad was a woodworker. He's a carpenter. And so we would build guitars together. And like I said, I have no skill in this. My dad was the woodworker. But at that time, down in San Diego, they had a guitar shop called Zola Guitars, and you could buy the pieces individually. And so kind of going through that, I would piece together stuff and then take it home, and my dad and I would kind of put it together. My dad would varnish it, make it beautiful, and he knew how to do all that. Was it hard when you first started guitar making to realize, like, to last 30 years, it's more than just finding random pieces and putting it together? I look at now your guitars and I think how unsophisticated I was. And a lot of your competition here, I can see they're at different levels of maturity. They're not where you're at. How far into your journey 30 years ago did you start to realize, I got to do something much more special than just random assembly?
That's a great question. Absolutely great question. To give you a piece of that would be that you just got to keep passion in it.
Yeah, and then being able to kind of put together, when you look at the music industry and you see, like, differing views. The electric guitar business, and music in general, they put billion-dollar price tags on it. They say it's growing. What's your view right now of the industry post-pandemic? Because in the pandemic, we were on a sugar high. Everybody was buying stuff, but it's sort of like people were getting pets too. Then after that went away, there was a problem because there was a glut of stuff in the market.
One thing I learned from my dad is that he always said, quality remains after the price is forgotten. Now we've turned that upside down. That's all about the P&L statement. It's all about how many. It's all about you buy 1,000 board foot of mahogany, and how many can we build out of it? How long is it going to take? What is it going to cost? What can we sell it for? That's all good.
Right.
That's just not us, because a piece of wood is all about, does this say guitar? Does it say bass?
Right.
One of the gifts that we have, that we've been blessed with, is that, okay, you can feel a piece of wood. Oh, this is bass, this is guitar. This make great piece of furniture, And so the awareness of, and the craft, the old school way of craftsmanship is kind of fading a little bit.
Yeah. JD, question for you. So, even coming to this show, as I'm walking around, I came here for a few minutes, and I always realize how many people you know in your network. And Brian Meter from the Guitar Sanctuary in Dallas, I have a place out there, and a world famous place. And Brian, very well known.
Sure.
It seems like you have a really good network of connections. I don't know if you consider him a mentor or a client or a partner, but can you talk about the relationships that you have in the music business and how you use this to help your company and your family build?
Yeah. Well, it's all, we try to live, and I want to be a good example for my kids and other people, is that just be you. There's only one fingerprint of me. Just be you. Don't try to be something else. And, the old school way of looking someone in the eye and your word being good, it still works.
Yeah.
And you roll up your sleeves and you work.
Yeah.
If it isn't on a computer or a phone or anything, a lot of people, they're kind of lost in that.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that hard work and that connections. I did an interview with Fraser Smith, who was a radio personality here in the '80s at KLOS, big rock station, and he would always say, if you're not networking, you're not working.
Right.
And I totally believe that to be true. And in the music industry, it just seems like there's just a lot of, as a spectator of this, it just seems like you spend a tremendous amount of time making the connections.
Well, one thing that I was inspired to do was that I would never be too good to work on a $200 guitar for a kid or something.
Yeah.
And we have a collection right now that's $100,000.
Right.
The Motor City collection. But I still have to have that to be genuine in the $200 guitar.
Yeah. The after you get done and you kind of look at the NAMM Show here, and maybe just to kind of pull it back to the big picture, what is your view of this year's show as compared to all the other ones? And I don't mean just for you yourself, because you're talking to people, you're networking. As somebody that, again, I'm an observer. I'm not claiming more than I am, but I would just tell you my observations, and maybe you can kind of pile on, is that great attendance, pre-pandemic attendance, but kind of interesting. I'm a guitar guy, so there's every instrument ever here, but I'm looking for guitars. And I noticed Gibson's not here, Fender's not here. And then I noticed Taylor is relinquished to the mysterious third floor, because it's all like private stuff up there, and which is a letdown if they have a 50th anniversary collection coming out, and as an acoustic guitar player, I was a little bit disappointed that they weren't more open. What are your views, and what do you think is different this year? Or is it heading towards the Taylor private event where you have to be somebody to get in the door? Or
I believe with all my heart that quality still remains, and people are more important than any piece of wood.
Yeah.
And if you lose that sincerity and lose the heartbeat of music, you know, you fade quick. You know, it's like Stradivarius violins. I love Stradivarius, okay? And if you study Stradivarius, I mean, it was all about family.
Yeah.
And now 2024, current.
Yeah.
I mean, our whole banner right now is 4 family, 5 family.
Right.
We've cut the artists, the endorsements, and all that out because, you know, it's really a facade. It's not really real. You know, it's just hype. But man, family is something that it's all about heart.
Well, it's interesting though, like if you follow Taylor and some of these other guitar companies, it started in the family, and then they start figuring out if they could bring insiders in to kind of continue it. Your story, the thing I've always loved about it was, you know, it's very based in the bedrock. You know, principled people doing great stuff, quality. But I always like the family part of it, and it seems like, especially with Dran and Gabe, their profiles seem to be rising up a little bit. And I was just kind of curious. You know, I've started a lot of companies, and one of them I started with my brother, and it was the best experience I had. But sometimes it was hard for succession planning. Like, what are we gonna do with this company at some point? And you can tell your company is a thing now after 30 years. And so, how do you anticipate your sons for the long term helping? And you know, what is the strategy when you look at, you know, how to maintain this momentum? Because you got another 30 ahead of you.
Sure. It's all about just rhythm. I love the word rhythm because I play guitar, play bass, used to play drums, but I love rhythm. If you're in rhythm, things will just happen. There's such a beautiful flow. If you try to put everything on a spreadsheet or a business plan, that's all good and that works, okay? No, I'm not negating that at all. Man, you got to keep the heart in something this, because one song can change a person's life. Every song has instruments, whether it's a voice or a guitar, a bass, a keys, woodwinds, brass, whatever it is. And music is such a universal language. And trees have breath in them. They breathe. They have sounds. One of my favorite things that talking about David was that it says, let the trees of the field clap their hands. So all of this wood has songs in it.
That's right.
And when you get the revelation of how much trees move and have sounds and how much God loves you.
So, JD, I was at the International Guitar Festival in Dallas. I had the opportunity to meet Paul Reed Smith, and you know, a legend guy, just like yourself. And it was interesting as like his story branching out had a point very similar to Warrior. And then, you know, kind of preparing for this discussion, I was doing a little bit of research to see like where he was at, to try to kind of have a different perspective. And, you know, he's in Maryland and has a big factory. And he gave out stats that and this is all public, so I'm not saying anything that, but, you know, he puts out about 200 guitars a day and has about 100 from overseas. And I know he's a custom guitar player, but that's starting to sound like a manufacturer of guitars. And I know you guys all have relationships, so I'm not trying to push it, but do you see yourself staying in that niche? Do you think it's technology potentially takes you to that next point, or just staying small keeps you in that niche where you want to be? Do you know, the Paul Reed Smith model, you know, is that something that you look at as some place that Warrior would go eventually?
That's a great question. You know, it's a great question. You know, so many people says, what are you going to do next? And I honestly, when people like this about me, I don't really know. You think, oh man, that dude ain't got a clue. But the instruments speak for themselves, so apparently we do have a clue. It's like wherever we're led, not driven. I just don't want us as a family to be driven. I want us to be led. If we're led to, you know, stay small and keep it all, that's great. If we're led to turn it up and open it up, jump in the big ocean, let's go. So that's honesty.
Yeah, it's interesting, talking with Dran a little bit. I won't say that I have a lifelong relationship with him, but as a business guy that goes into the biggest companies and departments of the government and tries to get a beat on what's going on,
Sure.
you definitely have a younger generation coming on that's going to maybe lead you to that path. And some of the discussions I've had, it's like very modern perspective of,
Sure.
and so I think you're blessed to be able to have a little bit of yin and yang, that balance, and it'll be kind of a calming, I think.
Sure.
But I do see, I have a son that's in one of my companies, one that I have, and he is super smart. And sometimes, as I go through the process, I'm like, and I always try to set expectation with him, like, hey, first of all, leave this company, go somewhere else and get other experience so that when you come in, you can have a perspective. But he's been with that company for about 12 years. And so he's also pretty valuable. And so I think, though, when I see what you guys are doing, and now I've seen it off and on for 6 years following you guys, it just seems like you're in a very exciting spot right now.
Oh, it's amazing. And thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah.
That warms my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't just shut down your heart.
Right.
The heartbeat is where the soul of music is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just kind of in closing, JD, as you start looking at this and you start, other people that are out there, like I said, my show, we try to inspire people to
Sure.
Potentially do better in what they're doing, to try and find inspiration through people. It's called Ameritocracy because it's about merit. It's about people achieving things on their own and not trying to look for a reason that, I need to be able to achieve because of this. It's like I'm doing it because of my hard work. Any messages to people that might be out there either trying to start a company from scratch, whether it's in the music industry or not, and from your experience that you might want to add?
Absolutely. Can I turn this way?
Sure.
I would inspire you whether you're in the middle of your journey, the beginning of your journey, or at the end of your journey. The key is keeping it real. And you got to have 3 things that I think will inspire you, me, her,
Mm-hmm.
and whomever watching. Is number 1, be willing to change. Number 2, you got to be confident. And number 3, you got to have clarity. And you got to keep it simple sometimes to be clear. Don't overthink things and don't complicate things. I have a lot of friends that are extremely wealthy. They always ask me, man, JD, why are you so happy? And I remember the first time I was asked that, I thought, man, what am I going to say? And then I said, you know what? I don't chase money. So don't pursue money, pursue your passion. Stay passionate. Sometimes you got to pause and gas up and gear down. When you gear down, you have more power.
That's right. Yeah.
You can always make money wherever you are in your life, but you can't make time. Time is so valuable. And treasure the moments of the journey.
That's awesome, JD. I really appreciate that. So again, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I look forward to working with you. Take care.
That was a great interview with JD. Next up is this interview with his son, Dran Lewis.
Hey, Dran, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I had an opportunity to talk to your dad a little bit earlier, and there's so much positive energy going on here at the NAMM Show, and I just thought it'd be great to get an opportunity to hear from one of his sons. And I thought you and I had been talking out a little bit earlier, and definitely a lot of activity going on here. So how's the show going for you so far?
The show has been amazing. It's been a fantastic turnout, and we've just been just enamored by the response and overall the show has just been, it's been a really good show.
That's awesome. Part of the discussion and why I wanted to talk a little bit about is we started talking about the next generation coming into the business.
Sure.
And I was telling your dad too, because I kind of keep track of Warrior since 2018 when I had an opportunity to meet you guys
Sure.
here and in Dallas. I noticed your profile is moving up a bit in the context of the business, you and Gabe, and I just thought it'd be interesting for the listeners to get an idea. So, if you wouldn't mind, Dran, talk a little bit about growing up and then getting into the business. And did you watch it from afar and then say eventually I'm going there, or was it something that's like, oh, Dad, I guess I'm going to help you?
I probably started. I'm 35 now. I am. I was probably 14, 15 when I started really like working for my dad full time, and I think some of it partially by choice, partially also with just feeling the obligation with the family business and carrying it on and all that. And then I think that later it took. I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I've had a great time, but it took some time before I really like fully dived in and was invested in where like, okay, this is taking ownership in this, and I am. So yeah, 14, 15, and it's crazy to say that 20 years, I've been doing this with my dad and going to NAMM, and I've been going to NAMM even longer with him probably, but to being a part of it. So I finally I've done a little bit of everything as far as the building aspect, from learning how to do everything from the ground up. I love doing all that. I know later on I've started realizing more of working on what my skill set is in the business, and I have my brother, and everyone's, has their shine in different areas, but I'm definitely very passionate about it, and I do love it, and I love everything that we do, from the people we meet and to the instruments we make, and how the impact we've had over the years it's been really awesome.
So, a little bit about Warrior guitars too. So custom guitar bass, I heard a little bit too, which I did not know. Sometimes acoustic guitars, is it tough sometimes being the son of a founder when you come to a NAMM show and you see all of these different companies here? And when I say being the son of a founder, there's also a competitive nature too. You want to have you want to be the best at whatever you're doing. And, I was telling your dad, you and I have had a discussion, and you made a comment about, I said, God, there's a lot of vendors here, a lot of custom guitar vendors. And you're like, Troy, there's over 100.
Yeah.
And he said, but there's always over 100, and many times they're new. We've been here 30 years. And so that longevity, and maybe that is the badge of honor, is keeping your quality and everything kind of in check, and then being able to kind of sustain in this marketplace. What would you say has been the secret to Warrior guitars? And do you ever look at competition and go, Dad, maybe we should do something different now?
Sure. Absolutely. I think that, just like I said to you about over the years, I've kind of settled into my own. It's the same with, it's like we're learning and stuff too, because it's just 30 years, you gotta, you kind of stick to what works, but also you gotta shake things up, because it's constantly evolving, and the industry is evolving, and technology evolves and everything too. So that's one thing of me with Dad, is I've kept him up to date on what's trending and what we have to keep up with that stuff. But that being said, I think I focused too much in the earlier days on the competition, and when I should have listened to my dad of like, hey, that's great what they do, but that's not us, and I think that took me some time to settle in to what we do best. Right. And it's like, so I feel like we have that kind of particular market, and we're what we have to offer is like, we have our niche, and of course we have to constantly evolve, and we're coming out with new ideas and cool stuff. But it took me some time to really realize that, of like, okay, but just because that worked for them doesn't mean it worked for us.
Yeah, part of the preparation with getting ready for this discussion is that I was telling your dad this too. Is I was looking at a bunch of different custom guitar companies, and Paul Reed Smith back in the day was probably the company around when I was younger that started doing stuff. And somebody asked him, what do you think is so special about your guitars? And he goes, it's not one thing. He goes, what ends up happening over years is like every year we've, and we're always focused on one more thing. And it becomes, years of one more thing until you have a perfected product. So he goes, I could talk about the frets, I could talk about the wood, I could talk about the electronics, the keys. And, I was just wondering from your perspective, product development and being able to kind of go through, and I don't mean just because your name is on the latest models out there, but, anything that you would, because people that are listening to this are probably interested in like, how do you manage the product life cycle of a guitar company?
Gosh, I know. It's funny, the little things I'll get excited about, no one even realizes. Like you're talking about tuners or some little small piece of hardware. I'm like, oh my God, we found the perfect tuner, or we found the perfect this. But I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question. I think the biggest thing is, we've had our designs and stuff, but like for me being hands-on is I've gotten to be so much more involved in just some of the designs and the aesthetic aspects of things, of like not only what I think is cool, but what I think other people will think is cool. And still sticking to our traditional models with us it's such wood-based, the wood stuff is such a staple in what we do. But like just figuring out ways to like you do this NAMM for so many years. It's like you got to come up with ways to like what's different about Warrior this year, So it's a constant struggle, but it's also fun to like do that every year. To like, how can we, what can we do to come out with something cool and new and fun, and it's like it's still Warrior, but it's fresh.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you guys, my podcast focuses on success and people that achieve things, and whether it's corporations, whether it's big government, or companies, small companies that are doing something very special to kind of give that. And I think that, what I see in Warrior Guitars, you have an unbelievable niche, you got a great product. And, when people, I talk to a lot of people out there, there's a very high regard, but when I'm explaining to my friends about Warrior Guitars, they're like, Troy, I'm looking for more information on them. And so I was thinking maybe this sort of an interview would give people an idea of kind of behind the scenes at Warrior Guitars and what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
there's so much to it.
Amazing, man. Thank you. Yeah, what's funny is like, for the most part back in the day when people were still buying a lot of magazines and stuff, we ran ads and we did stuff like that. But for the most part, we've just grown naturally in word of mouth and stuff. Yeah. And so that's what's, it is awesome, and it makes me very proud to say that too, of like, to see where we've come over the years just from word of mouth and progressing over the years like that.
I collect guitars, and it's interesting. So the Warrior guitars, sometimes what I find out the most about Warrior is like Reverb.com or any of these, because your stuff's been out there for so long, it's starting to work its way into the secondary market.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, I love that. But then being a little snobbish, it's like, but that was somebody else's, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Yeah, but it's, so you guys, it seems like you're always developing, because I've never really see a lot of the same stuff out there.
Well, we try. I'm happy. Like, makes me feel good to hear you say that too, because I like to think so too. And hearing that, some affirmation like that is nice. And it makes me feel good too to see that not that many are out. That's a good sign when you do. I mean, obviously, guitars are going to be for sale and stuff, but there's not that many. And when you do see them, that they're holding their value and stuff like that, it's from an ownership standpoint, it makes me very proud.
So as we kind of get ready to close, I'm looking at, I want to talk a little bit about my guitar. I was able to pick up today the Serenity. So,
oh my God,
30th anniversary.
So beautiful.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Any stories behind the scenes that I would be able to share that, or just the 30th anniversary models and, the kind of the high level, what you guys were hoping to achieve with the 30th anniversary?
Well, I think that with the 30th anniversary, it's obviously, if you know my dad, that he pulls out all the stops, and there's no such thing as simple with him. But me being involved too is like, how do we make this, take this up a whole another notch and up another level, but still keep that classy aspect to what we had, the sleekness of our designs and stuff too. So it's like, and not be gaudy, or you know what I'm saying. So with your guitar, it was a lot of time went into that, and it's a lot in the really fine details. You know, everything to the herringbone on your guitar, and like the little fine details of like what makes this so special and what makes this the 30th anniversary. You know, down to the piece of wood that, rather than we have everything, all the wood special and a lot of older wood that Dad uses, but like that one was a step above, you know, and like it's really the fine details on the 30th anniversary.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, and Jan, I really appreciate you taking some time to meet with me.
Oh man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
That was a great discussion with Dran. Next up is his brother, Gabe Lewis.
Gabe, how are you doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
No worries. I think it's cool what you do, for sure.
Oh, well, cool. Thank you. And hey, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, had the opportunity of talking with your dad and your brother, Dran, and wanted to just get your perspective, Warrior Guitars. I've been a fan. I've started really following you guys 2018. I got to pick up my guitar today. I'm super excited about that. But watching across the NAMM Show and seeing, it feels like we're back to normal again. And I was just curious, have you been to a lot of these shows? I'm sure with your parents and your brothers, you've had to come to a lot of these.
Yes, and I have many, many stories and all of that from all the shows and everything. And like, even when we would break down and like, we'd have to come and hide in the booth because, the security would come by and they would be like, no minors around, and all that. But yeah, I mean, ever since I was a little boy, I've been coming to NAMM, and I'm 30 now. So like, it's crazy how I've watched over the years how much it's changed and how it's gone to more of a digital market. And, we as a company have had to keep that in mind as we grow and as our company becomes more like where we go into a lot more markets and we're a part of some really cool I don't even know what to call it. Like our industry is very niche is what I'm trying to say. And with the niche market, it's been really cool to be able to be around people who are not, our normal clientele.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think what I was really trying to get across on this episode was, talking to the founder with your dad and kind of hearing the travails and the challenges and his testimony and how he's got to this point. My show focuses a lot on success and realizing that success isn't just something we do on our own. It's a group of things that come together. It's hard work. It's being at the right place. If you're spiritual, there's a big portion of having the hand on where you're at and what is ahead for you and what's your purpose. And so with your dad, I think that always recognized or resonated with me. And when I was meeting with your brother a little bit earlier, I was really just trying to get a perspective, and with you now too, is like being on this journey with Warrior Guitar, and thinking about it longer term, 30th anniversary. So you guys are, celebrating that. And I was just curious your view, more personally, when you look at 30 years and what do you see ahead from your vantage point, not holding you to anything, but just from your viewpoint, because you get to see a lot of stuff and you're in a generation that really is a different type of buyer.
Definitely. And I mean, that you say that, we are in a place to where me and my brother Dran are like going after more of a just
kind of a different demographic.
Yeah, exactly. So Dad, he brought the coolest thing. He said, we're going to build guitars. You know, God gave him the name Warrior and told him this is what he's supposed to be doing. But then me and Dran, we give input in all the things that we do. And like, I've just watched our company grow, and I mean, we've come such a long way, and it's super exciting. It really is.
Yeah. It's you know, and I was also kind of admiring the guitars, you know, after 30 years of being in the market. You know, the most exciting thing I think about custom guitars is when you get to see the new ones that come out, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I was talking a little bit earlier, is like your guitars are starting to come into the secondary market as people exchange hands. And you know, as a guy that collects guitars, I'm always like, Warrior's got my eye, like, oh my God. And I see so many different types of guitars, you know, that you guys have put together.
Right.
And, you know, so I think about like from here forward, you know, what is, you know, product development part of it, you know, is, you know, what direction do you guys go? You know, is it acoustic next? I talked to your brother about the acoustic guitars.
Yes.
I know you have bass guitars. I'm not downplaying that. I'm just not a bass player.
Of course.
But you guys have beautiful bass guitars too.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious, like any thoughts on your perspective of you get the opportunity of influencing, you know, you and your brother,
Absolutely.
where your dad goes, and so your voice is pretty powerful in
Right.
this triad here.
And it, you know, I say with confidence that we, as a family, have like been all on the same page lately, and I mean, I'm just excited for 2024.
Yeah.
And like even incorporating the air tag into one line of our basses, like that's just the start of how we're entering more of a, we're taking, you know, what me and my brother are seeing in the world and how things modernize, and we're moving that into you know, our builds, and Dad's designs are incredible, but like all of our input is just so crucial in everyone's perspective.
Now, you guys are in the Georgia area.
Yes.
And so I was telling your dad next time I'm going through there, I definitely want to stop and check that out. But you know, that not too far from Nashville. I'm sure you guys are doing a lot of stuff out there too, and being able to get into that market seems to be red hot right now.
Yes. And everyone, I mean, not everyone, but many people out west are moving to Nashville and calling it home. And it's like, it's really cool to go to Nashville and it's not just honky-tonk music, which we all love, but at the same time, it's like, it's expanded so much. And so that just shows like how things are evolving and changing, and it's exciting. It really is.
Yeah. For your contribution in this, when you are starting to work your way in to the company and realizing, hey, I have a real role. I'm not just, you know, somebody from the family that's kind of here. I'm going to do a portion. You know, when you started feeling that momentum of like, I actually have an oar in the water, that had to be pretty empowering, of realizing when your dad like looked at you and said, look, you know, Gabe, I'm depending on you on this now. You've signed up, we're paying you. How did you find that adjustment?
It didn't actually go that way. I think it was more, I had run from my calling of building guitars and doing something that I was good at because I love people. So I went to real estate school and I thought that was my thing. I also learned a lot of things about laying tile and doing, you know, hardwood floors and all that. And like, that was a crazy part of my life because I don't know, I just was like searching, and it was more of a soul search. And like, it was almost, I always end up back at home, if you will. And like, I came back, and when I took it serious and like completely put my whole heart into what I was doing, I mean, I feel like our frets are the best they've ever been because I've almost mastered it and done things in our inlays and even our shapes and our necks and all that. So it's been really cool to be a part of that, but bring what I know to the table and make it so much better.
Yeah. It's even in the short time that I've been following you guys, it seems like the products develop over time and kind of get refined, and it's just very, very exciting. Yeah. Hey, as we get ready to close off here, any last perspective that you would want to add to kind of the direction of Warrior, your view, or maybe your contribution that you would like to see, as you're starting to go through, for the next 30 years?
I would just say me and my brother Dran, we are on the same page, and we have some really exciting things that we're planning for the next, say, 5 years. And, I can't wait to unveil that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's all I can say.
Yeah. No, well, that's leaves everybody kind of on a little bit of a teaser there. So that's awesome. Well, Gabe, thank you again for taking time to be with me on the show. And I wish you and your family the very best.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Same to you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again for joining me today on the Ameritocracy Show. Be sure to follow me on social media and our website at troyedgar.com, where you can get more information and sign up for my weekly email. I hope you have a great week.